Namaste everyone and welcome to another edition of the Ramanand Sagar Ramayan review from the Hindu Pod. My name is Pradeep and I'm the dad.
My name is Vishala and I am the daughter.
Hello Vishala, it is very nice to be with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. And how is being a teenager treating you?
To be honest, it's not all that different.
First of all, let me apologize to everyone. We have been offline for about 2 weeks. And this is because Vishala just celebrated her 13th birthday. And we took some time off to relax and to enjoy that a little bit. But now we're back and we will be trying to catch up. We're behind by, I think, 3 episodes now. So this is our first. And over the next 2 weeks, we'll try to come back up to date on our episodes. Having said that, let's go ahead and jump into the review. Vishala, what episode are we working on today?
Season 1, Episode 11.
And what is the name of this episode?
Sita's arrival at Ayodhya.
Yep. And the IMDb description says, King Janak tearfully bids farewell to his beloved daughter Sita as she departs for Ayodhya with her new husband and family. The 4 daughters-in-law are welcomed in Ayodhya. It has a rating of 8.9 stars on IMDb. What do you think, Vishala?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning I was kind of reluctant to give this a high rating because in my mind I'm thinking this is like the 3rd episode that we're covering the wedding of Shri Raam, and they really seem to be dragging it out. But there are some things in this episode that really hits home, and it really sets up very well the balance of the Ramayan. Today we come to the end of the Balkand chapter, and this one episode really does a lot to set up what we're going to be seeing in the future chapters, and it kind of sets up the relationship of Shri Ram and Sita Mata as equals, and sort of explains to you when we see things happen in the future why it is that it is happening. So the original air date of this episode was April the 12th, 1987. And Vishala, where can people view these episodes of the Ramayan?
YouTube.
Right, and we also post a link in our show notes. So if you go to the show notes, you can find it there. What are your overall thoughts on this episode?
In my opinion, this is probably one of the best episodes I've seen in a while. And probably because it was a lot more easier for me to understand the information coming at me than the other ones that we've seen recently.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think they did a very good job with this one in terms of explaining and doing setup, like I said earlier. This, I think it's mostly perfect. There's one little gripe I have with it, but we can talk about that a little bit later on. But I agree with you. I think they did a very good job. I like this episode very much. And I would give it maybe about 9 stars, a little bit above 9 stars with this one. I think it's pretty good. So if you're ready, we can go ahead and start with the recap of this episode. Why don't you go ahead and I will jump in wherever I can.
Okay. So the episode starts with the queens and they're talking about the wedding party and how they can't wait to see them since they can't leave because they can't leave the palace. And they really want to see their sons and their wives and as well as the kingdom itself. So they say that they'll send out a messenger to the kings telling them to send the wedding party as they cannot wait any longer.
Yeah, they are very, they are excited and they are becoming impatient because it's been so long and still they haven't returned. And they are wondering, okay, what it is that's happening. So Kaushalya tells them that Janaka has not as yet given permission for the wedding party to leave, for the Bharat to leave, and they can't leave without that permission. So Sumitra is so disappointed, but Kaushalya is telling her that Raja Dasharatha is right. he has to get that permission before he can leave.
So yeah, like you said, King Dashrath made a promise. He can't leave until he's given permission by King Janak. And so they say how there's no promise breaking here. They're the groom's family. They can get them to obey them somehow.
So Sumitra Mata says that I will send a letter to the king. She decides that she's going to write a letter to the king requesting that they come home as soon as possible, because the people of Ayodhya, they want to see their sons and they want to see the brides. And Kaushalya Mata tells her that Raja Dashrath has given his word. And then Sumitra Mata says, well, why you have to be so idealistic all the time? Right? She's like, for once in your life, let's break the rules a little bit, nah? Let's see if we could get our own way.
So the scene cuts to King Dashrath, and he's explaining to the chief minister of Ayodhya how he understands how King Janak must be feeling.
Yeah, he says, Sumant, I can't say this to Raja Janak. He's there and he's worrying about his daughter. He's going to be missing his daughter. How can I go and say this to him?
He explains how horrible it felt when Raam had to leave him for the little time that he was gone.
Yeah.
And so now that King Janak has to give up his daughter forever, he can't imagine how he must be feeling.
Right. So he's in the head of Raja Janak, and he started trying to think, okay, this is how this king is feeling. I've seen him. I've seen his sorrow, and I cannot just take away his daughter from him. I have to let him work through this. So this is what it is that is happening. But Sumant, he has a different point of view on this, right?
Sumant says he must not let these emotions make him forget that he's king, and he must return home soon.
Right, so we have two different dharmas here that Raja Dashrath has to deal with. Number one is the dharma of a parent, but the other one is the dharma of the king. And in this case, the dharma of the king has to take precedence over the dharma of the parent. So this is what Sumant is trying to explain to him. Maybe not so much explain to him, but is trying to remind him that this is your priority. And this is the place of the senior minister, right? The senior minister is there to remind the king and kind of keep him grounded. And Sumant is doing an excellent job in reminding the king.
The scene switches to, I'm guessing they're like servants from Mithila.
Yeah, they're making some decorations and so on.
Yeah. And one of the men say they have to hurry up as the brides are going to leave that day. And the other one says the brides only leave at King Janak's command. Mm-hmm. And they say how King Dashrath has been asking to leave for so long, but King Janak is just making excuses for them to stay.
Right. So they're saying that Raja Janak is going to miss Sita Mata so much that he's trying to keep them there as long as possible. He keeps coming up with these different excuses as to why they can't leave. And this is one of the things that we know Raja Janak to be an enlightened soul. They say that he has attained moksha in this life itself, even while he's alive in the material world. He is considered to be a realized soul. He's considered to be a liberated soul, even in this human body. It is said that he is detached from everything. But yet we're seeing that even in detachment, he has so much love for Sita Mata, he cannot let her go. And kind of makes you question, kind of makes you wonder, is he really detached? If he loves his daughter so much that he cannot bear to see her leave, is he really detached? He's just as the same as we might feel for our own children after they get married. But in truth, Sita Mata is an incarnation of Lakshmi Devi. And she's that power behind Lord Vishnu. She is that force that is directing all of this to happen. Raja Janak is actually acting as per her desire. She is the one that is generating all these feelings in Raja Janak. Everything that happens because everything that happens because Sita Mata is directing it, whether Raja Janak wills it or not. So what we're seeing here is the will of Sita Mata. We will go through at some point who Sita Mata actually is, and we will go through her backstory, how she came to be, and what position in this entire story she actually holds. And it is very, very interesting. So when we say that Raja Janak is only acting, as per her desire, you will see that coming up.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
How does Janak act in the actual Ramayan, like when you're reading it? Is it different from how he's acting in the show?
So it depends on the version of Ramayan that you're listening to. In Shri Charitmanas, which it seems as though they drew heavily in creating this episode, he is very emotional, as you're seeing here. But if you were to read the Valmiki Ramayan, he is very detached in that one. You don't get all of this emotion in the Valmiki Ramayan. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of differences, and we'll talk a little bit about that coming to the end. There's a lot of differences in the Valmiki Ramayan versus the Shri Charitmanas in the way that all of this happens.
So the servants were also saying how themselves, they also don't want to send the princesses away because of attachment. They say that Sita's literally the living image of it. Scene cuts to King Janak, Vishwamitra, and Chitanand, and they're all talking. Vishwamitra is talking to King Janak about attachment, and Janak says it's easy to give one's heart to someone, but sending a daughter away is very tough.
Mm-hmm. So they are realizing that Raja Janak is becoming comfortable in this arrangement with Raja Dashrath here waiting for him, and he's not ready to let go, and he's just kind of holding in that pattern, and they're thinking to themselves, this is not right. There's something that we have to do here. We have to stand up and try to fix this. So they sit down with him and decide to give him counsel, and they're telling him that he is the example of detachment to the world, and if he falls into this pattern, then who will protect the ethics of the world? Who is going to protect Dharma when you yourself are the embodiment of Dharma, and this is the way that you're acting? But Janak says that the greatest yogi and the greatest warrior cannot evade the loss of a daughter. While it's easy to give one's life to someone, sending away a daughter is very difficult. So here is a father. He's following the dharma of the parent now, right? Here is the father. He's trying to explain to them that, look, this is my daughter. This is my only daughter. How are you asking me to just let her go like that?
Both Vishwamitra and Chitanand explain to Janak how once the girls leave, they're now outsiders. They belong to someone else at that point, and he shouldn't have to be told that.
Right. Yeah. Your impatience is very clear. This is what he says. Your impatience is very clear, but you already gave your daughter away in the Kanyadan ceremony. Therefore, she's already an outsider, and she now belongs to Ayodhya. So they're trying to get him to understand, you performed the ceremony. You made the conscious choice to do this. So now you can't back out. You can't hold back. You have to let them go.
Janak says fine and tells Chitanand to inform the queen to prepare the princesses for departure.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene quickly shows Dashrath being informed of the news. Then it cuts to the queen talking to the princesses. She tells them that a woman's husband is their god, and she not obey any sage, hermit, noble soul, or deity apart from her husband. So she's like giving them like a lesson before they go.
Right.
A woman's only duty is to give up her selfish motives and do things. A woman's duty is to give up her selfish motives and only do things for her husband's upliftment. Any woman that is capable of doing this needs no one's blessings. And she explains to them other stuff like being supportive of the husband and honoring his parents and serving them. She says something in Sanskrit and explains that the ethical texts say that kings and husbands must be spoken to as per his moods. You may say the wrong thing at the wrong time, but it won't amount to anything.
Right. So she's trying to explain to them, listen, this is the power that you have, right? You can give your husband, when they say kings or husbands, she means this is your husband, right? Whether he's a king or whether he's a beggar, he's still your husband. So this is what that means. But you have the power to counsel him. But even in that, you need to know how to pick your words, and you need to know what the timing is when you should say what it is you're going to say. Because the timing that you say what you're going to say, even if it's the right thing, if you say it at the wrong time, it will be ineffectual. So you have to be able to navigate through this. This is some very, very good advice that Sita's mother is giving to them. It's also, I mean, when you look at it and when you read it, it's very dated for that time. A lot of these instructions that they're being given in today's world, somebody might look at this and think, you really want me to treat my husband like a god? You really want me to give my husband that amount of power? In today's world, we don't go by a lot of this, but this is the instruction that's being given in Ramayan. And it's saying if we follow this instruction, this is the structure that the marriage should take. It says, first and foremost, remember this. A woman's husband is her God. She doesn't have to obey any sage, any hermit, any noble soul, no deity apart from her husband. Her only duty is for her husband's upliftment. So she's there to guarantee, to help him in his upliftment in this world. And if she can do that, that's her primary responsibility. A woman who is faithful to her husband in every way needs no blessing from anyone, not even the gods. But even the gods will fear her, and God himself is bound to her word. So this is the power that the woman has. She also says that she must honor his parents and serve them as it is the best sacred duty.
She gives them her final lesson, which is to consider their in-laws' home as their own. Mm-hmm. Don't pay mind to your own home. Be so devoted that you forget about it.
Yeah, be so devoted that you forget your parents' home. Right? Once you get there, that's your home. Don't think back. Don't think back on what it used to be.
They're then informed that the 4 princes have come to the palace for the farewell, and the princesses must be prepared to leave. And the queen, she starts tearing up as she remembers the farewell, and then says for their friends and everyone to go dress them up nicely and get them ready.
Yeah, this, I could only imagine the emotions that's going through her mind. I mean, it's she has all the strength to sit there and speak with them and give them all these instructions. And then all of a sudden, reality hits that, okay, it's time for them to leave. And you can really see the emotions that she starts to feel at this point.
They all make their way out, and Janak stops to bow to Dashrath's feet, only to be stopped by Dashrath. And Dashrath asks, what are you doing? He knows better than this. And Janak asks to keep the blessings of Dashrath and to be forgiven for any mistakes he may have made.
So what do you think he was talking about there? When he's asking Dashrath for mercy for the mistakes that he's made, what mistake has Janaka made here? Because I was thinking about this. I looked at this and I was like, what exactly really is he asking for forgiveness of? Because what has he really done?
It's still also a way of showing respect, saying sorry for anything that may have happened. I guess that's just another way of showing respect.
Possibly. I mean, in my mind, and I don't know that this is what it was, right? It was just a question that I had for myself while I was doing it. I figured I'd ask you. So I'm thinking maybe he's talking about asking him to stay back that long. That he's thinking that I probably shouldn't have done that, and he's feeling bad about that. Maybe that's why he's asking for forgiveness, or maybe he's asking for forgiveness for his daughters. That if they come into your house, I think a previous episode before we talked about this, and if they come into your house and they behave in a way that does not suit you or does not make you happy, then that's my fault. And this is what I'm asking for forgiveness for. So although he's already asked for that forgiveness before, it could be he's asking for it again. But I mean, it's just something that I thought about and I figured I'd ask you.
King Janak says the 4 princesses are now Dashrath's servants. So please offer them a place to stay. Dashrath says they're the fortune of their family, and fortune is never a maid. They will always be treated with respect.
Yeah, so, and this is another one of them things, right? So Janaka always refers to these 4 princesses as they are coming into your house to be servants. And Dasharatha always looks at them as though they are Lakshmi themselves that's coming, and he treats them with such high esteem. And on the other hand, Raja Janaka is showing so much humility in handing them over.
Janak says the only thing he could ask them now is just. Janak says the only thing he can ask of them now, is, as the father of the daughter, is treat them as their wards. Dashrath says they will protect them and worship them as they're the future queens of Ayodhya, and they both hug.
That was hair-raising to me when he said that. I loved that he said that you're talking about them as though they are servants. They are not coming here to be servants, right? And he really puts this in a certain light that clarifies everything for Janak, right? Janaka is so worried about his daughter. He's so worried about the welfare of his daughter. And Dashratha just makes it so clear to him, I am taking back Ayodhya's future queens with me. We will revere and we will worship them. And I like that Vishwamitra had said that most people pray for just one harbinger of fortune. But you, Janaka, you have blessed us with 4. And you have given us 4 times the blessings. So they are doing everything they can to show Raja Janaka, look, we honor, we revere, we appreciate, we love these girls that you are sending. And there is no way that you have to worry that when they come to Ayodhya, that they will be mistreated.
So yeah, they both hug. Shatanan speaks up and says it's finally time for their princesses to leave. And they make their way to the palanquins, and Janak tells Sita that...
He has one more piece of advice for her.
Yeah.
Right?
He says how nothing that she says would ever shame her father and her in-laws' fame.
Mm-hmm.
Sita hugs both of her parents and crying before saying her goodbyes and hugging everyone else, like her friends, her cousins, everyone. And they carry Sita to her palanquin and do the same with all the other princesses. Janak once again hugs Dashrath, and Dashrath starts walking back to the palace with the princes and the wedding party. And
yeah, and there's this beautiful montage there with the bhajans and everything, and the bhajan is talking about their childhood in the palace of Mithila. And now it's time to leave to go to their new home. I thought that this was really beautifully done. Even though the princes are right there, you have Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughan, you have Raja Dashrath, you have the gurus, you have everybody there. They did such an excellent job of focusing on the princesses and on the grief that they are feeling and the grief that their parents are feeling. It's almost as though you don't even see the others there. You don't even see the 4 princes there. They did a really, really good job with that. It brings you back to the emotions that, you feel on your own wedding day, and makes you kind of think about, okay, what is it that my parents were actually going through at this time? Because the bride and the groom might not really be thinking about all the things that their parents are going through, the things that's on the parents' mind. But watching this, it really makes you think about it. It's one of these things that I would advise anybody to go back and just watch this episode just for that. Just so that you can see, okay, this is what my friends had to go through. This is what my parents had to go through. This is what my siblings had to go through. And they would have a better understanding of when you're getting married and you have these grand things that's happening with you, how it affects the other people in your life. As the Bharat procession leaves, it showed Raja Janak, and he's standing there. You notice that he's just standing there and his arms are outstretched, and the princesses, they're gone. and immediately you get that feeling as though the palace is empty.
Yeah.
It's such
It was quiet.
it was a really good way that they did this. It was amazing. I give them top marks for the way they handled this scene. He's standing there, and just a second ago, it was so much festivity, so much things is happening. There's so many people there, and it's just these few people left, and you're still seeing everybody from the kingdom is still standing there, but you feel as though it's empty. And this is the feeling that you get in a real wedding procession. Once the bride leaves, for some reason you get that feeling like, okay, everybody's gone, yet everybody's still there. You get that feeling like everybody's gone and the place is empty now. And what am I going to do with myself? This is the way they portrayed this so well. So well. It was really well done.
The scene cuts to the queens and the kingdom coming with trays with like puja stuff, I'm guessing. And they start arching the princes and princesses with it. And there's this little this little moment that stood out to me where Lakshman smiled, and I'm like, "Aw." You didn't really see him smile.
You don't see him smile, so they're very precious. And those times you get to see Lakshman smile.
The queens lead them into the palace, saying some Sanskrit chants for Surya Devata, and they offer flowers and do the puja.
Yeah, you see Guru Vashishta, and he's standing there in front of the image of Surya Devata. And they're doing worship to Surya Devata because he's the Ish Devata of the Raghuris. So as the new members of the family are coming in, they're kind of introducing them to their customs. And their custom is to worship Surya Devata.
So they all leave there and they sit together, and like they have like this whole moment where they're just like with each other. And they say that Ram's the eldest and his ritual should be done first.
Right.
And so they begin with, I think you told me it was the rice and milk ritual.
Yeah, so this is something we do today.
I didn't understand what that meant, but the rice.
No, we still do this today. I don't think I told you it's a rice and milk ritual,
So
but that's how they in the episode that's the way they explain it. And they say they give Sita the milk and rice and they tell her to feed Rama, and then once she's done they tell Rama, okay, now it's your turn to feed Sita. And even today in the Caribbean we still follow this practice where we have the sweet rice that we feed each other and that kind of thing after the wedding. I think we usually do it, and I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but I feel like we do this on the Monday after the wedding. Like if the wedding is on Sunday, we do it the day after. And I see Kaushalya, she was saying something to Sita, but I'm not real sure what it was she was saying, and they didn't really tell us. I kind of get the feeling like they were planning some kind of mischief there.
They're soon seated in front of a bowl of milk with a bangle in it. And they say, whoever finds the bangle first wins this little game. And so Ram and Sita go, and Sita finds the bangle. So one of the brothers laugh, and they say how his sister-in-law won the game instead of Ram.
Yeah.
And then Lakshman comes in saying, no, Ram let her win on purpose.
Yeah. So the way this is supposed to work, whoever gets the bangle, right, kind of has... It's a kind of superstition that whoever gets the bangle is going to be the dominant person in the relationship. So Rama's didn't get the bangle, Sita Mata gets it, whatever the cause of that was, whether he let her get it or not, that's what that's representing, that she's the dominant person in the relationship. And that's another thing that we do in the Caribbean. When me and your mom were getting married, we did this. It wasn't with the milk, but there was this bangle in a thali, and we had to do it 3 times. And whoever grabbed the bangle first, they would have the dominance in the relationship. And the first time she got it, and the second time I got it, and then the third time we got it together. So that's what I worked out. But it's just fun. It's a lot of fun in doing that. Even with the feeding of the rice and milk, you see the brothers are there and they're warning Rama, be careful when you put your hand in her mouth, she's going to bite you, and that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. All of these things are just a way to kind of break the ice and to make the new bride coming into the house feel more comfortable, feel a little bit playful, kind of get to know the family a little bit, that side of them. That's what all of this is really about.
I like that. It sounds like they had a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah, it is, and someday you'll get to experience it.
The scene cuts to Sita, and I'm guessing she was like relaxing or something. She was in her room,
Yeah.
and she is joined by Raam. Then she gets up, bowing to his feet, and Raam asks, why did she do that? And she says her mother told her that she must first worship her husband, and she will follow his every command.
Yeah.
Raam says his first command is for Sita to live not as his maid. Well, wait, I said that wrong.
Yeah, I love Rama's response here. So Rama listens to what she has to say, and then he looks at her and he smiles and he says, "Okay, you listen to your mother, right? Your mother told you what you have to do when you come here, and you've listened to her. Good. Now, will you listen to me?" And she said, "Yes. You tell me. I am here to serve." So now she's saying, "Okay, whatever you want me to do, I will do. You tell me." Right? And Rama says, "Okay then, my first command to you is that you are not my maid. You are my wife. You are my other half, and you are my friend. He asks her, please be my companion and my accomplice as we go along. Help me in every good that I do. If you ever find that I am losing my way, then stop me from straying. A good friend and companion must do this." So he's making sure that she understands that we are equals. You are not my maid. You are not, anything subservient to me. We are equal. And so what he's asking her here comes into play in just a short while. He's asking her to please be my companion and my accomplice as we go along. When Kaikeyi Mata orders Shri Ram to go to the forest, she uses this line. Sita Mata uses this line when Shri Ram tells her that you have to stay. I want you to stay here. This is me alone. I alone am going to the forest. She says, no. We made a promise that I am going to be with you. I am going to share all of this with you. She uses this line to go to the forest with him so that she could be there with him. So that's when I said that some of the things that you see here really sets up what we will be seeing in the future. This is a big part of it. This is another thing. Mother Kaikeyi said, to make this moment of a first glimpse memorable, I must offer you a gift. And then he says that I have this gift. But this gift is not encrusted with gems. It's not a crown. It's not a bangle. It's not anything like that. But it is a promise that I'm going to make to you today. The way of a king is to have many queens. And we see this even with his father, right? His father had 3 wives. The way of a king is to have many queens. But Rama's life is only about one wife. And no other will come in the way. And this is my vow. So he makes a vow to her that although nowadays kings are having multiple wives, you are my wife. You are my only wife, and I will never have another wife. So when Surpanak comes to them while they're in exile, and she tries to make Shri Ram her husband so that Shri Ram will have 2 wives, he says, no, I cannot have a second wife because I've already made a promise to my wife that I will only have 1 wife. So this is one way that it comes in. And later on, after they come back from exile, and Sita Mata goes back to the forest, Shri Ram has to perform a yagna, and in order to perform this yagna, he needs his wife to be there with him. And they tell him, well, get married again. Sita Mata is already gone. get married again, and then you and this wife can sit down and perform the yagna. And he says, no, I've already made a promise that this is my wife. I am not going to get married again. And they end up making a murti of Sita Mata, and he sits with that murti and performs the yagna. So there's, again, all this sets up future events in the Ramayana. One of the beautiful things when he tells her about this vow, he says, Janaki, do you know when I made this vow? And he said, it is when I first saw you in the garden. As soon as I saw you, I made that vow that this is going to be my wife and this is going to be my only wife. I don't want anybody else. I'm not even going to look at anybody else. This is my wife.
The scene cuts to King Dashrath, and he says he keeps thinking of King Janak's agonized expression. He looks really worried, and looks really worried about how they would be treated in Ayodhya. Kaushalya says that they couldn't imagine how the queen must have felt. Dashrath says he promised Janak that his daughters will never suffer at Ayodhya. He tells Kaushalya that it is her job to fulfill that promise. Kaushalya asks if he doubts that they will be mistreated here, and Dashrath says no, but good behavior isn't good enough.
Yeah, so they're having this conversation, and Dashrath is trying to explain to her, look, I saw this in Raja Janak's face, and he was so worried, and I made him this promise and all of this. But Kaushalya is trying to get him to understand, listen, you only heard from Raja Janak, right? But you have no idea what Queen Sunaina was going through. You can't imagine how worried that she would have been. You can't imagine that. But me, as a mother, I can. So Dashrath tells her, only a woman can understand what it is that a woman feels. And he tells her about the promise. He says, I promise the king that his daughters will never suffer here. But Kaushalya, it is your job to fulfill that promise. And Kaushalya says, well, are you telling me that there was some doubt in the way that the princesses will be treated here in Ayodhya? So Dashrath says, no, I cannot even imagine that. But just good behavior alone is not enough. After a lifetime of being raised with love, when a girl comes into a new home, she is scared. She's worried about who will treat her in what way and what will they say to her. But now is the time to reassure her so that they know that they are loved even more here. And since you are the senior queen, it is your duty. Just as the eyelashes protect the pupils of the eye, it is your job to protect these 4 girls.
The scene switches to the narrator, and he tells us that Balkand has ended with this chapter, and Ayodhya Kand will begin next.
So this is he's kind of giving us a preview of what it is that we're going to be seeing coming forward.
This will lead to Ram and Bharat's union in Chitrakush. He says how he thinks that Ayodhya Kand is the most important section in Ramayan because it teaches us the basic values in life and ideals that are tested. Ayodhya Kand showcases a human's greed and cruelty causing heartache, yet there are nice and sweet things displayed. And then the episode ends.
Yeah. This brings us to the end of Balkand in our coverage of the Ramanand Sagar Ramayan. For the most part, I really enjoyed the way they did this. I thought they did a very good job. There are a couple little things that I had little gripes with. But for the most part, they did a very good job, I thought. So what stood out to you in this episode?
When Lakshman smiled, that's something that you just don't see. And so when it happened, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, so for me, one of the things that I thought it was very glaring in this episode. And really, it's one of the problems I have with the entire thing. They don't really show the mother's perspective on feelings. Sita's mother, they showed her a little bit in the beginning. She has a short scene where she's trying to tell them okay, this is the instructions that I want you when you go to your in-laws' house. This is how I want you to carry about yourself. But they really don't show how she actually feels in terms of losing her daughter. They did a very good job with Raja Janak, and honestly, I think they went overboard with Raja Janak. And some of that time, I feel like they could have given to Sita's mother to show how she was feeling. Is there anything in particular that you liked about this episode?
When Ram said that he took the vow all the way back at the garden, I honestly thought that was sweet.
Oh man,
it was amazing knowing.
Yeah.
It was amazing knowing that he thought about their marriage and everything. He was like, I want her all the way back before they were even married.
Mm-hmm. I like the so this one episode is going to set up everything else for the rest of the Ramayan. As we come to the end of Balkan, it sets up everything for Ayodhya and going forward. And I thought they did a really good job in terms of I just liked the entire thing. I thought the entire thing for the most part was really good. Is there anything in particular you disliked about it?
To be honest, I'm not the kind of person that like sees things that are like that I don't like or like that are really wrong. So no.
Yeah, for me, it was just the same thing with Sita's mom, and I think that they should have given her a little bit more time. But that's about it. I thought that for the most part, it was good. And I really enjoyed watching Mantara just hobbling.
Oh, yes. I remember that. That was fun.
Yeah, to watch her come in and
she was so happy.
It was so funny just looking at her doing that. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. This has been a presentation of the Hindu Pod. Please remember to like, share, follow, and rate this episode, since it helps to bump us up in the feeds, and that helps others to find the podcast. Please send comments to thehindupod@gmail.com. You can text us at 281-804-9616, or you can just search Facebook for the Hindu Pod. If you live in the Houston area, you can find us on most Sundays at the Sanatan Dharam Mandir for Sunday morning satsangs. We are located at 12918 Player Street in Houston, and the Mandir is open on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. We are sponsored by HinduHandcrafts.com. Please visit HinduHandcrafts.com for Hindu religious-based items such as framed pictures, wall plaques, tapestries, t-shirts, clocks, and so on. They are perfect for puja use, home decor, or gifts. And until next time, Jai Shri Ram.